Hello folks, what you see in front of you is a project I've been thinking about and contemplating for a very long time, and finally it's come to fruition. The purpose of this project is a proof of concept that having aerated roots for Cephalotus is by far one of the best ways I have tried and tested to grow Cephalotus without it suddenly dying on you. And what this is I believe this is a 2.5 gallon jar, and then in the 2.5 gallon jar I've placed a vase. The vase, as you can probably see as I'm pulling it out, already contains slots that I cut into it. There's two sets of slots, one at the top and one at the bottom. The purpose of the slots is for water movement while the plant is sitting in the vase, like so. Now, so the construction is very simple. It's just a jar within a jar, and I'm sure you can get away with something similar. If you look at the top, I have a hole drilled here, and that is for an air hose. And then in the jar, attached to the air hose, is going to be an air stone. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. So once I put the air hose in here, and I'll show you the final product later, the inner jar will contain will hold all of the roots that will be growing from beneath the net pot. And the reason to isolate the roots with the jar within a jar is because the roots of Cephalotus, as I've mentioned in the past, is very brittle. So even in a setup like this, where I just have the container and the jar, and let me do a quick close-up. So you can see all the roots that's growing for this one plant. And this is a sizable plant. So this isn't small. So this plant measures about 9 inches across. Yeah, it's about 9 inches across, maybe 10. So 9 to 10 inches across. So what happened is, even with this setup, I think you're more familiar with my white containers like this. Is during transport, when I took one of these plants to a carnivorous plant meeting for show and tell, just by moving and driving along and shifting and having the water in the jar moving back and forth like this as I'm driving, when I got home I did notice bits of roots floating inside the reservoir. So I'm not sure if the roots are really brittle or just my driving. And also, because of this larger container, I'm not sure how much water it is going to be once it's filled to the top. but it definitely offers an opportunity to go on vacations if you're the type who likes to go on vacation, because with my existing setup, with that container, there's enough water in there for you to go on a 2-week vacation. However, one of the reasons why the existing system works is because by me replenishing the reservoir once a week, I am aerating the water. And one of the key points in having Cephalotus roots growing in a semi-hydroponic state is that the water is always fresh. There are, some of you have mentioned to me that you can be growing a beautiful Cephalotus, and you've shown me your pictures of your setup, and some of your setups are just absolutely incredible, especially the gentleman I met from Thailand, and he mentioned it could be growing great and then suddenly it'll collapse. And one of the reasons is Cephalotus will tolerate having wet feet for quite a while, until one day it decided not to anymore and die on you. And sudden Cephalotus death syndrome can occur overnight. So you could have a lush growing beautiful plant today, and tomorrow you look at the plant and it's wilted. And once the plant is wilted, there is no amount of repotting that you can do to save the plant, because the root system is gone. Check out my video called Sudden Cephalotus Death Syndrome. You can see what you can do at that stage if you catch it early enough. But anyways, that is the entire concept behind this project. So once this is fully installed, I'm gonna have a Cephalotus in here. And also you may notice these little black knobs. Okay, so first of all, the inner black knob, as you can see, holds the inner vase. When I was cutting the hole in the center, I gave it some leeway and not try to be so precise, because cutting plexiglass with a Dremel is not easy. So I just gave it a little bit of play, and then later on I super glued this little tabs, and now this is firmly in place and firmly situated right in the center. And then the outer tabs, as you can imagine, is to secure the plexi disc onto the jar, like so. So that's all. So it's not going to go anywhere or shift, and that's the purpose of that. What you see here is just really large air tubes from the aquarium tray that I just put a ring upon a ring, because this opening is too large. Additional purpose for the gasket is when you have a plant growing this large, like the one I showed you earlier, the only way to lift it up is to go under the pitchers and then find the rim of the pot. And by having this gasket, I can fill the ring and lift it up. Now, I don't expect I'll have to lift this up too often, because the whole point of this project is not to have to refill the reservoir every week, and to have the Cephalotus be happy with it, with the air stone. And I also attached a air pump, which goes off for 30 seconds every 2 hours. Now that I have the air pump installed, and I have the bubble going on, and there you go. So this is a adjustable air pump. The container up to that water line holds about 2 gallons of water. So this is what the final product looks like with all the tapes and stuff removed from the plexiglass. So here you see have the bubbler going, and I think I mentioned before the bubbler is going to be coming on for 30 seconds every 2 hours. So, and you also notice the water's a little bit tinted, and that is set at 20 ppms with the Maxi and seaweed solution that I fill the pitchers with. In a prior video, I believe I mentioned that I am now feeding the Cephalotus via the roots through the reservoir system, and also continuing to feed the plant with the Maxi filling the pitchers. So the plant that I've selected to come into this new home is this plant right here, B13. It is one of my bubble giants, and so you can see here is what I've been feeding it. Now the only purpose for this schedule is so that I'm not constantly spending time measuring the ppm in the water. So it just gives me a little bit of less work, let's put it that way. So by looking at the dates, I will review the ppm in the solution, and if it's less than about 9 or 8, I will add fertilizer back into the reservoir and bring it back up to under 15. So what this plant looks like is, going to remove this pot here. I'm going to keep the rim. And now going to move this plant to its new home. As you can see, the plant has a very well developed root system. And voila! You can see the roots. Going into the inner chamber. And I may need to fix the roots a little bit. But overall, this is what it looks like. So if I zoom out, so that's what the plant looks like from the top. And there you go. So if you have any questions or comments, please put it into the section below, and I'll be more than happy to answer your inquiries.